The air is so thin it barely counts as air. Every step is a fight. You are at 26,000 feet in the death zone, and you are still looking up. This is the reality for climbers on Mount Everest. But what many overlook is that just 120 miles south of this frozen hellscape, people are riding elephants through lush, steamy jungles. This is the profound, shocking riddle of Nepal, and we are here to find out how this impossible country works. When you think of Nepal, you think of one thing: Mount Everest. At 29,032 feet, it is the roof of the world. The air is too thin to support life. The temperatures drop to negative 80 degrees Fahrenheit. It is the ultimate test of human endurance. Many people are crazy about reaching the summit, but Everest, or Sagarmatha as the Nepalese call it, is just the beginning of the story. You see, Nepal is home to 8 of the 10 tallest mountains on Earth. This single, small country contains a section of the Himalayas that is, for lack of a better word, a wall. But what makes this place truly impossible, what defies all geographic logic, is what happens in just 100 miles. In the south, Nepal has a low point at Kanchankalan, just 230 feet above sea level. It's a hot, humid, tropical region. From that point, if you travel north just 120 miles, you will be at the peak of Mount Everest. There is nowhere else on this planet with such a staggering vertical change in altitude. It's the entire climate of the Earth, from the tropics to the Arctic, compressed into a strip of land the size of Arkansas. This vertical world creates features that are hard to even imagine. Forget the Grand Canyon. Nepal is home to the Kali Gandaki Gorge. As the Kali Gandaki River flows south, it cuts a path between two giants. Dholagiri at 26,795 feet and Annapurna at 26,545 feet. The depth of this gorge, measured from the peaks to the riverbed, is over 18,300 feet. It is the deepest gorge on the planet. This landscape isn't just dramatic, it's a fortress. It's the reason Nepal has a secret that no other country in the region can claim. But the land's secrets are nothing compared to the secrets of the people and the gods they worship. Hidden within this impossible landscape is the Kathmandu Valley. And this valley holds an impossible concentration of history. You see, the valley alone contains 7 UNESCO World Heritage Sites. Not 7 sites in the whole country, 7 in one small valley. It's one of the densest collections of ancient wonders anywhere in the world. You have the Buddhanath Stupa, a massive white dome with the all-seeing eyes of Buddha watching over the city. It's one of the largest stupas in the world, a center of Tibetan Buddhism right in the heart of Nepal. Nearby, Swayambhunath, known as the Monkey Temple, sits on a hill overlooking the entire city. It's an ancient, sacred complex where Hindu and Buddhist faiths have mingled for centuries. The valley is also home to 3 ancient Durbar squares or royal palaces in Kathmandu, Patan, and Bhaktapur. These are not empty museums. They are living, breathing parts of the city, filled with intricate wood carvings, golden gates, and temples that are thousands of years old. But 2 sites in this valley reveal the true, unique, and baffling nature of Nepal. The first is a palace in Kathmandu's Durbar Square. This is the home of the Kumari. The thing nobody tells you is that Nepal doesn't just worship gods in the sky. They worship a living, breathing goddess. A young girl chosen through ancient and secret traditions who is believed to be the incarnation of the goddess Taleju. She lives in this palace, revered by kings and commoners until she reaches puberty, when the goddess departs her body and a new Kumari is chosen. And then there is Pashupatinath Temple. This sprawling sacred Hindu complex on the banks of the Bagmati River is a place of profound spiritual importance. But for outsiders, it can be a shock, because this is not just a place of worship. It is a place for the end of life. Along the river, funeral pyres burn in the open. It's a raw, unfiltered look at the cycle of life and passing, a deeply spiritual custom that has gone on for thousands of years. It's this blend of ancient faith, life, and its end, all happening in the open, that makes this valley so different. But beyond the sacred valley, a different kind of life is fighting for survival in an unexpected place. When people plan a trip to Nepal, they pack for the cold. They bring boots, down jackets, and gear for the ice. What they overlook is the other Nepal, the impossible jungle. In the south, on the flat plains known as the Terai, lies Chitwan National Park. This is a hot, humid, subtropical wilderness that feels a world away from the snow-capped peaks. But the thing is, it's just a few hours' drive. You can be trekking in the foothills of the Annapurna Range one day, and the next, you can be in a jungle that looks more like India or Southeast Asia. And this jungle is home to some of the most magnificent creatures on Earth. Chitwan is one of the last great refuges for the one-horned rhinoceros. These massive armor-plated animals were once hunted to the brink. Today, thanks to serious conservation efforts, they thrive here. Visitors can ride on elephants or take jeep safaris to see them bathing in the rivers. But the rhino isn't the only giant here. Chitwan is also home to the elusive, rare Bengal tiger. Along with tigers, you find sloth bears, crocodiles, and hundreds of species of birds. This patch of jungle at the foot of the tallest mountains in the world is one of the most biodiverse places on the continent. This is the impossible duality of Nepal, a country that is both the roof of the world and a thriving tropical jungle all at once. But it's not just animals that thrive here. This land forged the most feared soldiers on Earth. The impossible geography of Nepal forges impossible people. For centuries, the world has known about the Gurkhas. These are soldiers recruited from the hills of Nepal, famous for their service in the British and Indian armies. Their motto, to put it mildly, is intense. Better to pass on than be a coward. They are legendary for their unflinching bravery and their skill with the kukuri, their traditional curved blade. They are a product of a land that demands strength and resilience. But there is another group, even more synonymous with the high mountains, the Sherpas. For too long, the world has simply called them porters. That is a massive understatement. The Sherpa people are quite literally built differently. You see, science has shown that Sherpas who live at high altitudes have genetically adapted to the thin air. Their bodies use oxygen more efficiently than lowlanders. Their blood is different. They are not just carrying gear up Everest. They are masters of an environment that is hostile to all other human life. This is the part that gets truly wild. The Sherpas are just one group. Nepal is home to over 142 distinct ethnic groups. And they speak over 123 different languages. Think about that. In a country the size of Arkansas, there are 123 languages. How is this possible? The answer is the geography. For thousands of years, the massive deep valleys acted as walls, isolating communities. Each valley became its own world, developing its own language, customs, and traditions. You have the Newari people of the Kathmandu Valley, the master artisans and builders. You have the Tharu people of the Terai jungles who have a unique resistance to malaria. You have the people of the remote Mustang region who practice a form of ancient Tibetan culture. It's an impossible patchwork of humanity. But one group remains hidden, a legend that haunts the high passes, a mystery nobody can solve. In the remote, high-altitude regions of the Himalayas, locals have for centuries told stories of a creature. A tall, shaggy, ape-like beast that walks on two legs. They call it the Mehte. The world knows it as the Yeti or the abominable snowman. Now, many people are crazy about finding this thing. Expeditions have searched for it for decades. Strange footprints have been found. Scalps and bones kept in remote monasteries have been presented as proof. while science has often debunked this evidence, identifying hares as belonging to ancient bears, for example, the legend persists. Because in a land this vast, this high, and this unexplored, who is to say what's impossible? The Yeti is more than a monster story. It's a symbol of the wild, untamable nature of the Himalayas. But the Yeti isn't the only impossible story. The biggest mystery of Nepal is its history. Look at a map. It's a small, narrow country sandwiched between two of the most powerful civilizations in human history, China to the north and India to the south. For centuries, empires rose and fell. The British Empire colonized India. China expanded its territory, but Nepal was never colonized. How? The mountains were its fortress. The land itself was the ultimate defense. The Gurkha warriors, forged by the tough terrain, were too formidable to be easily defeated. Nepal remained independent, a sovereign kingdom, preserving its unique culture, flag, and traditions. And what a tradition to preserve. This Hindu-majority nation is also the birthplace of one of the world's most peaceful philosophies. In the southern plains, in a town called Lumbini, a prince named Siddhartha Gautama was born around 563 BCE. The world would come to know him as Lord Buddha. Today, Lumbini is a massive pilgrimage site, a place of peace that draws believers from all over the globe, another impossible piece of Nepal's identity. For those who come to conquer these peaks, survival depends on one simple, ancient tradition. Every year, hundreds of thousands of people come to Nepal, not to conquer, but just to see. They come to trek the Annapurna circuit or to make the legendary journey to Everest Base Camp. This has created a unique economy that is in itself a lifeline. You see, along these remote trails there are no five-star hotels. Instead, there is the tea house. These are simple, family-run lodges that provide a bed and, more importantly, a hot meal. They are the backbone of the trekking industry. A trekker's survival, to put it mildly, depends on these small, welcoming outposts. And in these tea houses, you will eat one thing day after day. Dal bhat. This is the national dish of Nepal. It's a simple, incredibly nutritious platter of lentil soup, dal, steamed rice, bhat, and a side of vegetable curry, tarkari. The best part? It comes with free refills. There's a famous saying on the trail, dal bhat power, 24-hour. It is the fuel that keeps the entire trekking world moving. But Nepali food is so much more than that. In the streets of Kathmandu, you'll find momos. These are delicious steamed dumplings similar to a Japanese gyoza, filled with vegetables or meat and served with a spicy dipping sauce. They are the perfect, cheap, and delicious street food. In the mountains, you'll find thukpa, a hearty hot noodle soup with Tibetan origins that warms you from the inside out. And for the tourist, the journey almost always begins or ends in Thamel, the main tourist district of Kathmandu. It's a vibrant, chaotic maze of narrow streets packed with trekking gear shops, bakeries, cafes, bars, and restaurants serving everything from yak steak to Italian pizza. This is the staging ground for the impossible adventures that await. But Nepal's impossible nature isn't just in its past, it's also in its future and in its flag. First, look at its flag. It is the only national flag on Earth that is not a rectangle or a square. It's two triangles or pennants stacked on top of each other. They represent the two major religions, Hinduism and Buddhism, and of course the impossible peaks of the Himalayas. Then there's the time zone. Most countries set their time on the hour or the half hour, not Nepal. Nepal is 5 hours and 45 minutes ahead of GMT. Why? It's a symbolic declaration of their independence, a time set halfway between Indian and Chinese time zones. Even the calendar is different. While the rest of the world uses the Gregorian calendar, Nepal primarily uses the Bikram Sambat. This means that when you land in Kathmandu, the year is not 2025. It's over 57 years ahead. You are literally landing in the future. This is a country of ancient traditions like the Kumari, the living goddess, but it's also, surprisingly, a country of progressive ideas. The thing nobody tells you is that Nepal's Supreme Court recognized gay marriage rights all the way back in 2007, years before most Western countries. It's this impossible blend of the ancient and the modern that defines its future. It's a nation that runs almost entirely on hydropower, harnessing the power of the very rivers that cut its impossible gorges. Yet it's also a nation still searching for its footing, balancing its agricultural past with a future based on tourism. From the roof of the world to the jungle floor, from a living goddess to a calendar from the future. Nepal is not just a country, it's a riddle. This is a country of ancient traditions like the Kumari, the living goddess, but it's also, surprisingly, a country of progressive ideas. The thing nobody tells you is that Nepal's Supreme Court recognized gay marriage rights all the way back in 2007, years before most Western countries. It's this impossible blend of the ancient and the modern that defines its future. It's a nation that runs almost entirely on hydropower. Harnessing the power of the very rivers that cut its impossible gorges. Yet it's also a nation still searching for its footing, balancing its agricultural past with a future based on tourism. But Nepal's identity isn't just in its flag or its clocks. It's hidden in the paths that very few outsiders ever get to walk. Everyone has seen the pictures. The long line of climbers in colorful jackets, waiting their turn to stand on the summit of Everest. The yellow brick road of the Everest Base Camp trek, winding through Sherpa villages. This is Sagarmatha National Park, a UNESCO World Heritage Site in its own right, home to the highest peaks and the legendary snow leopard. It's magnificent. But the thing nobody tells you is, that's just the tourist trek. For those willing to step off the beaten path, Nepal offers challenges that are, to put it mildly, on another level. These are the real treks, the ones that test your limits and show you a Nepal that hasn't been seen in magazines. Take the Manaslu circuit. For decades, this trail was overshadowed by its famous neighbor, Annapurna, but many people are crazy about it now, calling it the new Annapurna. This trek circles the 8th highest mountain in the world, Manaslu, a beast at over 26,700 feet. The trail takes you from the steamy subtropical jungle up to the brutal windswept Lakya La Pass, which sits at nearly 17,000 feet. What you see here is different. The villages are not just influenced by Tibet, they are Tibetan, a culture preserved in isolation, but maybe you don't want a 2-week expedition. What many overlook is a hidden gem right in the heart of the Annapurna region itself, the Mardi Himal Trek. For years, this was just a faint line on a map, a ridge used by shepherds. Now, it's a short, sharp, and spectacular trail that takes you up to a base camp at 14,700 feet. You're standing face to face with the Fishtail Mountain, the sacred unclimbed Makapuchare, and the towering south face of Annapurna. It's all the glory, with none of the crowds. Then there are the hardcore treks, the ones for the truly adventurous. In the far east of Nepal lies the Kanchenjunga Base Camp Trek. Kanchenjunga is the 3rd highest mountain on Earth, a colossal mass of 5 peaks. This is not a tea house trail. This is a remote, grueling journey into a pristine wilderness of glaciers, high passes, and villages like Gunsa that have barely changed in a century. And for the ultimate challenge, the Dhaulagiri Circuit. This trek circles the 7th highest peak, Dhaulagiri, at 26,795 feet. This trail has it all. 2 high passes over 17,000 feet, a walk across a hidden valley of high-altitude desert, and views of glaciers that will make you feel impossibly small. These trails aren't just walks. They are passages to places that were, until very recently, completely forbidden. Beyond the highest peaks lie lands that were intentionally hidden from the world. Places so remote, so culturally sensitive that for centuries they were myths. Even today they are restricted areas, requiring expensive special permits to enter. The most famous of these is Upper Mustang. This is, quite literally, a kingdom behind the Himalayas. Geographically, it's not even part of Nepal. It's a slice of the Tibetan plateau that juts south. The landscape here is staggering. It's a high-altitude desert of eroded canyons, windswept plains, and cliffs of red and yellow rock. It looks, to put it mildly, more like Mars than Nepal. And in this desert is the walled city of Lo Manthang. For centuries, this was the capital of its own kingdom, ruled by its own king. It's a medieval city, preserved in time, filled with ancient monasteries and sacred art. But the thing that has baffled archaeologists is the caves. Dug thousands of feet up, the sheer cliff faces are over 10,000 ancient caves. Some were homes, some were burial chambers. Some were sacred temples, their interiors filled with priceless Buddhist paintings. Who built them? and how remains one of Nepal's greatest mysteries. And then there is the other hidden land. Tucked away in the Manaslu region is the Tsum Valley, the sacred valley of happiness. This valley was completely closed to the outside world until just 2008. It is a place of deep, profound Buddhist faith. The people here practice Shagya, a way of life that forbids all forms of taking a life. It's a land of peace where ancient monasteries like Mugompa cling to the cliffs at over 12,000 feet. These valleys were cut off by rock. But the entire country is shaped by something far more powerful. The rivers of Nepal are not lazy streams. They are freight trains of ice melt, roaring down from the highest glaciers on Earth. They are the hydropower of the nation, but they are also its life, its mythology, and its adrenaline. For the thrill seeker, these rivers are a whitewater highway. Just a 3-hour drive from Kathmandu, the Trisuli River cuts through forested valleys. It's the perfect introduction to rafting, with Class 3 and 4 rapids that are, to put it mildly, a wild ride. You can camp on its sandy beaches and fall asleep to the sound of the rapids. But for the truly crazy, there is the boat Koshi. This is known as Nepal's steepest river. It's a non-stop, intense rush of boulder gardens and waterfalls. It's not a river, it's an obstacle course. And if that's not enough, suspended high above the gorge is one of the most terrifying bungee jumps on the planet. You are standing on a bridge 160 meters that's over 520 feet above the raging river. But this water isn't just for thrills. In Nepal, water is a place of mystery. Near Pokhara, there is a famous waterfall called Davis Falls, or Devi's Fall. The name comes from a tragic story in 1961 when a Swiss tourist was swimming in the pool above the falls and was suddenly pulled into a 500-foot-long underground tunnel. Her body was never recovered. Today, you can stand and watch the water disappear into the earth, a powerful, eerie reminder of the land's hidden dangers. And then there is the water of the gods. High in the mountains of Langtang National Park lies Gosaikunda Lake. This is an alpine lake, frozen for much of the year, sitting at over 14,300 feet. But it is not just a lake. Hindus believe it was created by the god Shiva, who thrust his trident into the mountain to get water. During the Janai Purnima festival, thousands of pilgrims make the difficult trek here to bathe in its sacred freezing water. It is a place of profound faith born from the ice. This sacred water gives life and protects some of Nepal's rarest creatures. We've talked about Chitwan, the land of the rhino and the tiger. But what many overlook is that Nepal has a dozen national parks, each protecting a unique piece of this impossible vertical landscape. Just a stone's throw from Kathmandu is Langtang National Park. This park is a perfect example of Nepal's diversity. The trek starts in a subtropical forest, climbs through massive temperate forests, and ends in high alpine meadows and glaciers. But the real star of Langtang isn't the peaks, it's the wildlife. This is one of the last great strongholds of the elusive red panda. These shy, beautiful creatures live in the high-altitude forests. Then go to the complete opposite end of the country. In the flat, marshy lowlands of the Terai, on the border with India, is the Koshi Tapu Wildlife Reserve. This is Nepal's smallest wetland reserve, a birdwatcher's paradise. Over 500 species of birds are found here. But the real shock? This reserve is home to the last surviving herd of wild water buffalo, or arna. And in the rivers you can spot the gharial crocodile and, get this, Ganges river dolphins. Dolphins in a landlocked country. That's the impossible nature of Nepal. You don't even have to go that far. On the northern ridge of the Kathmandu Valley itself is Shivapuri Nagarjun National Park. This is, to put it mildly, the city's backyard. It's a 160 square kilometer forest that protects the valley's water supply. For tourists, it's a quick escape. You can take a day hike through the forest, visit monasteries, and get incredible views of the city below, all while breathing in fresh mountain air. These parks protect the wild, but other towns are living museums, protecting the past. The Kathmandu Valley, with its 3 ancient Durbar squares, is the undisputed jewel of Nepal. But what about the towns that guard it? Perched on the rim of the valley are ancient hill stations, places that were once kingdoms in their own right. Just 20 miles from the city, Nagakot sits at 7,000 feet. This isn't just a town, it's a sunrise balcony. On a clear morning, you can wake up and from your hotel window see a panoramic view. It's a place to relax, take short hikes to places like Namo Buddha, and soak in the serene atmosphere. But the most authentic, the most impossible of these valley towns might be Kirtipur. This historic Nuwari town sits on a hill just a few miles from Kathmandu, but it feels a world away. It's not polished for tourists, it's a living, breathing town of back-alley temples, ancient streets, and a rich, sometimes dark history of battles and royalty. There are no big hotels here, just authentic experiences. It's a living museum that, to put it mildly, most tourists completely miss. These towns guard the valley, but at the far reaches of the country, other cities guard the very soul of Nepal. This is where the impossible geography gets really strange. Nepal's identity is defined by its borders, and its border towns are worlds unto themselves. In the deep south, in the heat of the Terai Plains, is the city of Janakpur. This is not the Nepal of mountains and Buddhists. This is the heart of the Mithila culture. It's a massive, ornate, 3-story marble structure that looks like it was plucked from Rajasthan in India. Why? Because this city is revered by Hindus as the birthplace of the goddess Sita and the place where she married Lord Rama. It's a city of over 70 sacred ponds, vibrant art, and a culture that is completely different from the hills just a few miles north. Now go to the other extreme. Go north, past the Annapurna range to the town of Jomsom, sitting at 8,900 feet in the Kali Gandaki Gorge. This is the windiest town in Nepal. Every day, a powerful wind howls up the gorge. This isn't just a trekking stop, it's the gateway to the forbidden kingdom of Mustang. It's a land of apple orchards. Think about that. You're in a high-altitude desert surrounded by snow-capped peaks, and you can get a slice of fresh-baked apple pie. The Thakali people who live here have mastered this harsh land, and in the far east, near the Indian border, is Dharan. This is a colorful, vibrant city, a cultural melting pot that replicates many Indian traditions. It's a city of temples like the Buddha Suba, but also a gateway to natural wonders like Namaste Falls. It shows once again that Nepal isn't one country, it's a dozen different worlds, all crammed into one impossible map. So with all this, where do you even begin? How do you explore a country that is 100 countries in one? How do you plan for a land that is both a jungle and an Arctic zone? For most, the journey begins in Tamil, the chaotic, vibrant heart of Kathmandu. This is where you buy your gear, book your tours, and get your first taste of momos, the steamed dumplings that are the lifeblood of the city. You'll find restaurants for every budget, from the $5 dal bhat at a local canteen to a fine dining pizza at Fire and Ice Pizzeria. If you have 2 weeks, this is the impossible itinerary. You land in Kathmandu, you check into a hotel. If you want history, you stay at the Dwarika's Hotel, a living museum of carved wood and Newari heritage. If you want modern luxury, you go to the Kathmandu Marriott. You spend 3 days in the valley. You see the living goddess, the Kumari. You watch the sun rise over the Himalayas from Nagarkot. You get lost in the ancient, untouristed streets of Kirtipur. You eat a traditional Nepali feast at Bhojan Griha, a restored palace, while dancers perform. Then you make a choice. Are you a trekker? You fly to Pokhara. You stay at the Temple Tree Resort by Fiwa Lake. From here, you set out on the hidden gem, Mardi Himal Trek. For 5 days, you climb above the clouds, breathe the thin air, and see the fishtail of Makapuchare, or are you here for the wild? You skip the trek, you fly south to Chitwan National Park, you check into the Tiger Top's Tharu Lodge. You spend your days on elephant back or in a jeep, tracking the one-horned rhino and searching for the elusive Bengal tiger. This is the impossible choice of Nepal. You cannot see it all. You cannot be a high-altitude trekker and a jungle explorer at the same time. You cannot experience the Tibetan culture of Mustang and the Hindu plains of Janakpur in one trip. This is a land that demands you return, a land that shows you one of its many faces and then hides the rest. From the roof of the world to the jungle floor, from a living goddess to a calendar from the future, Nepal is not just a country, it's a riddle, it's a challenge, and for those who try to understand it, it remains the most beautifully impossible place on earth. It's a riddle. It's a challenge, and for those who try to understand it, it remains the most beautifully impossible place on earth. But what if we told you that was just the beginning? What if everything we've shown you so far, Mount Everest, the rhinos in the jungle, the living goddess, the river gorges, was just the surface? The thing nobody tells you is that for every famous place in Nepal, there is another, even more impossible one, hidden just behind it. You see, Nepal is a master of hiding its greatest treasures in plain sight. You've seen the chaos of Kathmandu, but what about the other kingdom? Just a few miles away, that is quieter, older, and, to put it mildly, more beautiful. Everyone who lands in Kathmandu goes to Durbar Square. It's big, it's impressive, and it's chaotic, but just across the Bagmati River lies Patan, and Patan is different. Why? Because while Kathmandu was the seat of kings, Patan was the city of artisans. The Newari architecture here is considered by many to be the finest in all of Nepal. The square is smaller, more intimate, and, to put it mildly, packed with an impossible density of temples, courtyards, and palaces. You stand in the center and you are surrounded by masterpieces. The Krishna Mandir, a temple built entirely of stone, is covered in intricate carvings depicting scenes from the Hindu epics. The palace courtyards, like the Sundari Chowk, feature sunken royal baths and details in wood and metal that are breathtaking. You can hear the sound of craftsmen. The tink, tink, tink of hammers on metal, a tradition of art that has never stopped. This isn't a museum, it's a workshop. But even Patan isn't the oldest secret. For that you have to go to the edge of the valley to a quiet hilltop overlooking the rice fields of Bhaktapur. This is Changu Narayan, and this is the oldest temple in the Kathmandu Valley. We're not talking a few hundred years old, we are talking ancient. This UNESCO World Heritage Site has inscriptions that date back to the 5th century. That's over 1,500 years ago. The two-tiered pagoda is a masterpiece. Carvings of Lord Vishnu, the god this temple is dedicated to, are some of the most important in Nepal's history. It's quiet here. There are no crowds, no souvenir stalls, just this ancient, sacred place and a sense of impossible time. And if you want the impossible view, there's a new way to see it. Forget a long trek. On the edge of the valley, the Chandragiri Hills offer a 360-degree view of everything. A modern cable car takes you up to the summit, where you can see the entire valley on one side, and on the other, a panoramic view of the Himalayas, from Annapurna all the way to Everest. It's the whole impossible country laid out before your eyes. The valley hides its history well, but the mountains, they hide entirely different worlds. Everyone knows the Everest Base Camp trek. It's a 2-week pilgrimage. It's crowded. It's famous. But what if we told you the best view of Everest isn't on that trail? Welcome to Pikey Peak. This is, to put it mildly, an insider's trek. Pikey Peak is a hill in the lower Solakumbu region, the same region as Everest. But at just over 13,300 feet, it's not a lung-busting climb, so why do it? Because Sir Edmund Hillary himself, the first man to summit Everest, declared the view from Pikey Peak to be his favorite view in all of Nepal. From this one single vantage point, you see the entire spine of the Himalayas. You see Everest, you see Lhotse, you see Makalu, you see Kanchenjunga, you see 5 of the world's 8,000-meter peaks. The trail is quiet, winding through rhododendron forests and tiny traditional Sherpa villages that haven't been turned into tourist hubs. This is the view the locals know, but what if you still want that high-altitude feeling, that impossible landscape of rock and ice? You just don't want the crowds. Then you go to the Gokyo Lakes. This trek runs parallel to the main Everest Base Camp trail, but instead of ending at a pile of rocks and prayer flags, it ends at a series of 6 impossible turquoise blue high-altitude lakes. These are some of the highest freshwater lakes in the world, sitting at over 16,000 feet. You look down at the massive Ngozumpa Glacier, the longest in the Himalayas, and across at these brilliant blue jewels, and right in front of you is Everest, Lhotse, and Makalu. It is for many a far more beautiful and far more rewarding trek than the one everyone else is doing. And speaking of Makalu, for the truly hardcore, for those who want to see no one, there is the Makalu Base Camp Trek. This is a brutal, remote, and stunningly beautiful journey to the base of the 5th highest mountain on Earth. You cross high passes and enter the barren valley, a place so untouched it's a living laboratory of rare plants and animals. This is a trek for those who believe the impossible should be earned. But some treks aren't about peaks, they are about people. In the Langtang region, north of Kathmandu, there is a trail that was created for a different reason. It's not about getting to a base camp. It's about staying in the villages. It's called the Tamang Heritage Trail. It winds through ancient Tamang villages, an ethnic group with its own distinct language and traditions closely related to Tibetans. But the thing nobody tells you is, you don't stay in tea houses, you stay in homestays, you live with the families, you eat the food they cook, you see the traditions they practice, you might even see a shaman ritual. You'll definitely visit the local hot springs at Tatopani, a natural spa in the middle of the mountains. This trail isn't about pushing your physical limits, it's about opening your mind. It's a journey that connects you, not to a summit, but to the people who call this impossible land home. And just like the Tamang Trail, there's the Mohare Danda Trek. This is the other Poon Hill. Poon Hill is famous for its sunrise views of Annapurna. It's also famous for having hundreds of people there with you. Mohare Danda is a nearby ridge with, to put it mildly, the exact same view. And no one is there. But it's more than that. This is a community trek. The lodges here are not owned by private companies. They are owned and run by the local community. The money you pay goes directly to supporting the local schools and health clinics. This is sustainable tourism. This is trekking that gives back. It's a way to see the impossible beauty of the Annapurna and Dholagiri ranges while making a real difference. This community spirit is hidden all over Nepal. You just have to know where to look. Far from the trails, in the hills of the Palpa district, is the town of Tansen. This is a place that time forgot. It's an ancient Newari trading town, but it's outside the Kathmandu Valley. It has the same cobbled streets, the same intricate carved wooden windows, but none of the tourism. And it has a secret. Tansen is the home of Dhaka. This is the famous, colorful, patterned fabric that is used to make the topi. the traditional Nepali cap. You can walk the streets and hear the clack, clack, clack of looms in the homes. It's a living tradition. A hill town of pure, preserved culture. This land is defined by its people, but it's formed by its impossible water. We've talked about Pokhara's Phiwa Lake. It's beautiful, it's busy, it's lined with bars and hotels, but what many overlook is that just a short drive away are its two quiet sisters. Begnus Lake and Rupa Lake. These two lakes are the other Pokhara. They are serene, green, and, to put it mildly, completely peaceful. There are no motorboats here, no loud music, just the sound of fishermen casting their nets from dugout canoes. You can rent a kayak and paddle across the still water, seeing the reflections of the Annapurna Range on the surface. You can stay in small, family-run guest houses, eat fresh-caught fish, and just breathe. This is the impossible piece that so many people are looking for. But for the truly impossible lake, you have to go remote. You have to go to the far, far west of Nepal, to the Mugu district. This is a place that is, in every sense, off the grid. And here, hidden in a valley, is Rara Lake. This is Nepal's largest lake, but that's just a fact. They call it the Queen of Lakes. It is a vast, brilliant blue sea sitting at almost 10,000 feet, surrounded by pine forests and snow-capped peaks. There are no hotels on its shores, no villages. It is part of a national park, a pristine, protected wilderness. You can hike the trail around its perimeter, a journey that takes a full day. You might see musk deer or Himalayan black bears. At night, the sky is so clear that the stars look like diamonds. This isn't a tourist spot. This is an impossible sanctuary, but even Rara, the largest lake, is not the most impossible. There is another lake, a lake so blue it doesn't look real, a blue that is, to put it mildly, shocking. This is Shea Phoksundo Lake. Located in the remote Dolpo region, this is the deepest lake in Nepal. It's an alpine lake, sitting at over 11,800 feet. But its depth is what gives it its color. It's a vivid, brilliant turquoise, a jewel set in a high-altitude desert. And because of its mineral content and the cold, there is no aquatic life in the lake. It is beautiful and it is sterile. On the cliffs above the lake, you'll see yak caravans, just as you would have 500 years ago, and you'll see Bon monasteries. This is the impossible religion of Dolpo. This is the pre-Buddhist faith. This is Lower Dolpo, a land of rugged passes, crystal caves, and nomadic herders. This is one of the last places on Earth where the ancient Bon religion is still practiced. A trek here is not just a walk. It's a journey into a different spiritual dimension, a land that feels more Tibetan than Tibet. It is, in a word, forbidden. A place that has been protected from the modern world by the very mountains that created it. These lakes are a source of legend, but some are a source of faith. In the Sindhu-Palchok region, a strenuous trek brings you to a place called Panch Pokhari, the 5 holy lakes. This group of sacred lakes at 13,500 feet is a major pilgrimage site. During the Janai Purnima festival, thousands of pilgrims come here to bathe in the cold, holy water. It's another of Nepal's impossible places where the line between nature and the divine simply disappears. These valleys are remote, but one valley in particular is the home of Nepal's greatest and most terrifying mystery. We have all heard the stories: the Yeti, the abominable snowman, a giant ape-like creature that stalks the high, impossible passes of the Himalayas. For most of the world, it's a myth, but for the people who live here, it's very real. And one valley, to put it mildly, is its home, the Rolwalling Valley. This remote, rugged valley west of the Everest region is known by locals as the Valley of the Yeti. It's a land of high peaks like the sacred Gaurashankar and massive, dangerous glacial lakes like Chorolpa. The legends of the Yeti are so strong here, so specific, that they are part of everyday life. Trekkers who come here are not just climbing, they are walking in the footsteps of a legend. But what if there was proof? For that, you have to go to the village of Kumjung. This is a traditional Sherpa village not far from the main Everest trail, but high up in a valley at over 12,400 feet. It's a beautiful place of stone walls and green-roofed houses. And it has a small ancient monastery. And inside this monastery, in a locked glass box, is the impossible artifact. A conical, hairy, reddish-brown scalp. This, the monks will tell you, is the scalp of a Yeti. Now, many people are crazy about this thing. Scientists have tested it. In the 1960s, Sir Edmund Hillary himself borrowed it. The tests concluded it was likely made from the hide of a serow, a type of mountain goat antelope. But the thing nobody tells you is, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's real. What matters is that for the Sherpa people, it is real. It is a sacred relic, a connection to the mystery of the mountains. It is a symbol of the wild, untamable, impossible spirit of the Himalayas. A spirit that, in this tiny monastery, in this high-altitude village, you can see and almost touch. This land is full of such impossible contradictions, places that simply shouldn't be where they are. In the hills of Palpa, not far from the town of Tansen, you can hike for hours along the banks of the Kali Gandaki River. You are, to put it mildly, in the middle of nowhere. And then you see it. A massive white neoclassical Victorian palace. This is Ranigat Palace. They call it the Taj Mahal of Nepal. It was built in the 1890s by a Rana-era general, Khadga Shumsha Rana, as a token of love for his late wife. It is an impossible piece of European architecture, complete with grand columns and courtyards. Sitting all by itself on a riverbank in the jungle. For decades, it was abandoned, a crumbling ruin. Today, it's a museum, a beautiful, haunting, and utterly baffling anomaly, but it's not the only anomaly. In western Nepal, there is a place that defies the country's entire image of peace and conservation. It's called the Dolpatan Hunting Reserve. This is the only legal hunting reserve in Nepal. In a country that is a world leader in protecting the rhino, the tiger, and the snow leopard, this is a place where if you have the permit and the money, you can hunt. This is the impossible contradiction. The reserve is a massive area of alpine meadows and forests, home to blue sheep and Himalayan tar. And the argument is that the money from these highly regulated, expensive hunts is the only thing that funds the conservation of the area. It's a difficult, controversial, and impossible question. To save a species, do you have to let some be taken? It's another riddle in a land that is full of them. A land that, from its highest peaks to its deepest valleys, never ceases to surprise. A land that shows you again and again that impossible is just a word. It's another riddle. In a land that is full of them. A land that, from its highest peaks to its deepest valleys, never ceases to surprise. A land that shows you again and again that impossible is just a word, but the rabbit hole goes deeper. What if we told you that for every forgotten place there is one that is truly, utterly wild? We've talked about Chitwan, the jungle at the foot of the mountains. But what many overlook is Chitwan's impossible twin. The one that's bigger, more remote, and, to put it mildly, far, far wilder. In the far west of Nepal, a long, long way from the tourist loop of Kathmandu and Pokhara, lies Bardia National Park. This is not Chitwan. This is a vast, sprawling wilderness that, to put it mildly, doesn't care about tourists. This is the impossible jungle. Getting here is an adventure in itself. It's a long overland journey or a flight to a remote airstrip, followed by a drive through rural Tharu villages. The Tharu people, who have lived here for centuries, are the guardians of this land. But the land itself, it belongs to the tigers. You see, Bardia has one of the densest populations of Bengal tigers on Earth. Because the park is so untouched, the animals are less accustomed to humans. A jeep safari here is not a casual tour, it's an expedition. You track footprints. You listen for alarm calls from monkeys. Your senses are on high alert because you are not just an observer. You are in their territory. And it's not just tigers. Bardia is a sanctuary for the one-horned rhino, just like Chitwan. But it's also a place where you can take a raft trip down the Karnali River to spot gangetic dolphins and massive crocodiles. This is Nepal's untamed West. It's the impossible wilderness that existed before the trekking trails. A place of raw, wild, and beautiful danger. This wildness is the soul of the Terai. But in the hills, other places are impossible for a different reason. Not because they are wild, but because they are not. They are frozen in time. We've talked about the living, breathing, chaotic cities of the Kathmandu Valley, but what if there was a town, a living museum, that had all the beauty, but none of the chaos? Halfway between Kathmandu and Pokhara, perched on a high ridge, is the town of Bandipur. And the thing nobody tells you is, this town is car-free. This isn't a modern invention. This was once a vital trading post on the old route to Tibet. Merchants from India and Tibet would meet here, and the town grew rich. The main street is a long, stone-paved bazaar, lined with buildings that feature intricate windows and carved beams. It's like stepping back into the 18th century. You can hike to viewpoints like Thani Mai for a sunrise panorama that stretches from Dhaulagiri to the Langtang range. But the impossible secret of Bandipur isn't what's on the surface, it's what's underneath. Just a short hike from the town are the Siddha Gufa caves. These are mystical, massive underground chambers filled with stalactites and stalagmites. Legends tie them to Newari tales and ancient hermits who came here to meditate. To explore them is to enter another world, a hidden, subterranean riddle, echoing the impossible sky caves of Mustang. Bandipur is a town that is literally a secret on top of a secret. This is the beauty of the Central Hills. But in the far, far east, a different kind of impossible landscape exists. A place that shouldn't be in Nepal at all. When you picture Nepal, you picture rock, ice, and jungle. You do not picture this. In the far eastern corner of the country lies the Ilam district. And Ilam, to put it mildly, is a rolling green paradise of tea plantations. This is Nepal's tea country. A landscape that looks like it was plucked from Darjeeling, India, just across the border. Endless rolling hills carpeted in the bright green of tea bushes. Estates like Kanyam offer tours and tastings where you can see how this impossible Himalayan tea is grown, picked, and processed. The air is cool, the climate is gentle, and the views are staggering. Because this isn't just any tea country. From viewpoints like Antudanda, you can watch the sunrise over the third highest mountain on Earth, Kanchenjunga. It's an impossible contrast. The gentle, manicured green hills of the tea estates and the brutal, ice-covered giant of Kanchenjunga looming in the distance. And like all of Nepal's impossible places, Ilam has its own sacred secret. The Lake of Mai Pokhari, a holy site for pilgrims hidden within the green hills. This is the other Nepal, a green, fertile, and peaceful kingdom that contrasts sharply with the arid, wind-swept deserts of the north. And speaking of those deserts, we've talked about Mustang, we've talked about Dolfo. But what about the lands that are even more forbidden? Mustang and Lower Dolpo are remote. They are restricted, but to put it mildly, they are on the map. For the truly impossible journey, you have to go to the places that, until just a few years ago, didn't exist for the outside world. Tucked away, hidden behind the Annapurna Range, are the Napu valleys. To get here, you need a special expensive permit. You are walking into a cultural time capsule. This is a medieval Tibetan world, untouched by tourism. The villages, like the high-altitude settlement of Phu, are are stone fortresses clinging to the sides of barren cliffs. The people here are different. They speak their own language. They practice their own form of ancient Tibetan Buddhism. You are not a trekker here, you are an explorer. You cross high passes over 17,000 feet and look out over a landscape of impossible isolation. This is the real hidden Nepal. And then there is Upper Dolfo. We've talked about the impossible blue of Shea Poksundo Lake in Lower Dolfo, but what many overlook is what lies beyond it. Upper Dolfo is a high-altitude desert, a vast, arid and empty expanse in the rain shadow of the Himalayas. This is one of the highest inhabited places on Earth. This is the ancient Bon religion. This is the pre-Buddhist faith of Tibet. The monasteries here are not just old, they are ancient. The culture is nomadic. You will see yak caravans, just as they have for 1,000 years, carrying salt across the high, impossible passes to Tibet. A trek here is not a vacation. It's a journey to the very edge of human existence. These are the impossible treks of isolation. But what about the impossible treks of intimacy? Everyone knows the Annapurna circuit. Everyone has heard of Annapurna Base Camp. They are two of the most famous and most crowded treks on Earth. But what if we told you the best views of these mountains are on trails you've never heard of? First, there is the Kopra Ridge Trek. This is the impossible twin to Poon Hill and Mohare Danda. It's another community-run trail. So the money you spend goes right back to the Gurung people who live here. But this trek takes you higher. It takes you onto a long, open ridge over 11,800 feet that feels like a balcony of the gods. You walk for days with an unobstructed panoramic view of Dhaulagiri on one side and the entire Annapurna range on the other. It is, to put it mildly, impossible intimacy. You are so close to these 26,000-foot giants, you feel like you can touch them. The trail winds through alpine meadows, yak pastures, and rhododendron forests. And at the end, you can make a day hike to the sacred Kaya Lake. It's all the reward, with none of the crowds. And then there is the other base camp. Everyone goes to Annapurna South Base Camp, but what about Annapurna North Base Camp? This is a trek for the connoisseur. It's a rugged, raw, and remote trail that takes you to the shadow side of the mountain. You see the glaciers of Gangapurna, the impossible ice world of Tilicho Peak. This is not the gentle, forested trail of the south. This is a hardcore trek into the heart of the ice. It shows you the impossible dual face of Annapurna. One side that is welcoming, and one side that is a fortress of raw, glacial power. These trails show you the impossible nature. But the true impossible heart of Nepal is in its cities. We've shown you the living goddess. We've shown you the open-air cremations. But we have, to put it mildly, barely scratched the surface of the Kathmandu Valley's impossible art and faith. First, there is the impossible peace, just steps from the city's frenzy. On a hill overlooking Kathmandu, Kopan Monastery stands as a sanctuary. This isn't an ancient relic. It's a living, breathing center for Tibetan Buddhism. A retreat where people from all over the world come for meditation courses. You are surrounded by peaceful gardens, chanting monks, and stunning views of the valley. Yet the chaos is just a few miles away. Now let's go back to Patan, the city of beauty. We showed you the Durbar Square, but what many overlook is the shining secret hidden within it. The Golden Temple. Its real name is Hiranyavana Mahavihar, and it is impossible. In a city of brick and wood, this three-story Buddhist vihara is covered roof to facade in glittering golden metal. Inside, resident monks tend to the temple and sacred turtles roam the courtyard pond. It is a shrine of impossible opulence. But the true impossible engineering is in Bhaktapur. We've seen Bhaktapur's Durbar Square, but towering over it is the Nyatapola Temple. This is a 5-story pagoda, one of the tallest in Nepal, and it is a masterpiece. It was built in 1702 in just a few months without a single nail. It is so perfectly engineered that it has survived centuries of devastating earthquakes, including the massive one in 2015 with barely a scratch. It is guarded by a staircase of impossible statues, wrestlers, elephants, lions, and griffins, each 10 times stronger than the one before it. Nearby is another impossible marvel, the Dattatreya Temple. This ancient Hindu shrine is a center of festivals and craftsmanship. But its legend is what stops you. It is said to have been built from the wood of a single tree, an entire massive 3-story temple carved from one tree wonder. And then there is the impossible energy, the Bhairavnath Temple, also in Bhaktapur. This temple is dedicated to Bhairav, the fierce, terrifying form of the god Shiva. This is not a place of quiet meditation. This is a place of raw power. During festivals, masked dances and raw energy fill the square. It is the impossible, protective, fierce spirit of the valley embodied in stone and wood. This energy isn't just in the valley, it's the lifeblood of the highest places on Earth. When you trek to Everest, you hear one name over and over, Namche Bazaar, but this is not just a stop on the trail. This, to put it mildly, is the capital of the sky. Namche is a bustling Sherpa capital. a crescent-shaped town built into the side of a steep mountain bowl at over 11,200 feet. This is a real town. It has vibrant markets, shops, and, get this, Irish pubs and German bakeries. The impossible comfort of a fresh-baked pastry in the thin, cold air is a feeling you never forget. This is the heart of the Khumbu. It's where trekkers acclimatized, but it's also where Sherpa traders sell their goods. It's the gateway to Everest, but it's also a wow factor of human resilience, a hub of commerce and life in a place that is hostile to it. From Namche, the trail continues up, and it leads to the impossible spiritual peak of the Khumbu Tengboche Monastery. This is one of the most famous monasteries in the world for one reason. It is perched on a high ridge at over 12,600 feet with a perfect framed view of Mount Everest. To be here, to listen to the horns and chants of the monks while looking at the highest mountain on earth, it is an impossible moment. This is a sacred place, the site of the colorful Mani Rimdu festival. It is the spiritual heart of the Sherpa people. A beacon of faith perched quite literally above the glaciers. These places were built by faith, but other places were built by power. Everyone knows Kathmandu was the capital, but what many overlook is the capital before the capital. High on a hill, in the hill district of Nuwakot lies a forgotten fortress. This was the impossible strategic point. The place from which the unifier of Nepal, Prithvi Narayan Shah, launched his campaign to conquer the Kathmandu Valley in the 18th century. The Seven-Story Palace. It's a name that echoes with a forgotten power. This isn't just a building. It's a massive brick fortress palace sitting all alone on a commanding hilltop, a silent guardian with panoramic views of the surrounding valleys. It dominates the landscape. It is the landscape. This was a place of kings, a place of warriors, a strategic stronghold that decided the fate of a nation. Nearby, other temples cluster, as if drawn to its spiritual gravity, the hilltop shrine of Kalika and the ancient weathered Malika temple. They are part of a sacred and military complex that time, to put it mildly, has begun to forget. But the real story of Nuwakot, the impossible story, isn't about its ancient battles. It's a story of pure, unyielding resilience. The 2015 earthquake didn't just shake this region, it tried to erase it. The palace, this seven-story monument to history, was cracked and broken. The temples were badly damaged, their intricate carvings buried in rubble. It was a moment of utter devastation. It looked like the end. It looked like a final, tragic full stop on centuries of history. But the people here, they refused to let it end. With nothing but pure, impossible determination, they have been working day and night to restore their heritage. This is not a government project with a massive budget. This is a labor of love. This is a fight for identity. Brick by painstaking brick, carving by carving. They are raising their history from the dust. To visit Nuwakot today is to see something truly impossible. You are not seeing history as a polished museum piece locked behind glass. You are seeing it as a living, breathing, and surviving story. You are witnessing in real time the impossible victory of forgotten battles and a faith so resilient, not even the shaking of the earth itself could break it. These treks are hard. The history is heavy. The stories are intense, but what if you just want the impossible beauty without the impossible effort? We've all heard the stories of Everest, of Annapurna. We picture lung-busting climbs, dizzying altitudes and brutal freezing winds. And that is one side of Nepal, but it is not the only side. The impossible secret of this country, the one whispered on the gentle winds of the foothills, is that some of its most beautiful, most profound places are surprisingly, almost unbelievably gentle. In the Ganesh Himal region, a mountain range named for the beloved elephant-headed god, lies the Ruby Valley. The name alone tells you this is a special place, but this is not a hardcore trek. This is not a test of your physical limits. This is a low-altitude walk through rolling green hills. Past vibrant, impossible carpets of wildflowers and, yes, through areas known for their precious stone mines. This is a trail of cultural immersion. This is a trail of homestays. You don't stay in a cold, impersonal tea house. You stay with the Tamang and Gurung families. You are welcomed into their homes. You sit by their fires. You eat their home-cooked meals. Food grown in their own gardens. You are not a tourist passing through. You are a guest, a friend. You hear their stories, you share their laughter, and you become, for a short time, part of their world. This is the impossible mix. You get the stunning, up-close, jaw-dropping views of the entire Ganesh Himal range. You see the giants, the ice-covered peaks glowing in the sunrise, but you are not suffering in the thin, cold air. You are sleeping in the comfort of a warm, subtropical forest. It's all the wow, all the majesty, all the impossible beauty, with absolutely none of the high-altitude strain. It's the impossible equation solved, and then, as if that weren't enough, there is the impossible bloom. We've talked about the sweeping vistas, the giant mountains, the shimmering lakes of Pokhara. We are trained to look for the big. But the true, impossible beauty of Nepal is not just in its scale. It's in its detail, hidden in the lush forests right near the city. A place most travelers completely miss is the Valley of Orchids. This is not a grand, sweeping landscape that takes your breath away with its size. This is a small, lush, floral enclave. It's a jewel box. It's a biodiversity hotspot. A humid, secret garden home to hundreds of rare and impossible beautiful orchid species. This is not a trek, it's a gentle nature walk. It's a quiet moment of reflection. The air is thick and the forest is alive with the hum of insects and the call of birds. It's a powerful, profound reminder that the impossible beauty of this nation isn't just in its giant, icy, roaring peaks, but in its smallest, most delicate, and most perfectly formed flowers. Impossible doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers. You cannot know this land without walking it. You cannot understand its soul without seeing its peaks and its flowers. But to put it mildly, you really can't know it. You can't understand its heart, its fire, its very essence, until you eat it. We've talked about Dalbat power, the relentless, sustaining fuel of the trekkers. We've mentioned the momos on the street, those perfect dumplings of joy. But that, to be honest, is just the start. That is scratching the surface. The impossible diversity of Nepal, the sheer range of its cultures and climates, is quite literally on its plate. You cannot understand this land. You cannot understand its people. You cannot understand its history of survival and celebration until you taste it. In the ancient Newari towns of Patan and Bhaktapur, the cities of the artisans, you find food that is not just sustenance, you find fuel for the artisans. Think about that. This is food specifically designed over centuries to power creation. This is food that fuels the hands that carve gods from wood and hammer metal into divine art. This is not simple food, this is art itself. It is complex, it is spicy. And to put it mildly, it is absolutely incredible. You have bara, a savory, spiced lentil pancake. It sounds simple. It is not. It's a dense, protein-packed, flavorful disc that's like a veggie burger patty from another dimension. It is the perfect portable fuel for a long day of carving intricate wooden windows or hammering delicate silver. You have chatamari, a thin, delicate rice flour crepe that acts as a Newari pizza. It's a canvas topped with spiced minced meat, eggs, and onions. It's delicate, it's delicious, and it's a taste of the valley's sophisticated urban culture. And then there is the real test. There is choila. This is a fiery, grilled buffalo meat. marinated in a pungent, impossible blend of chilies, spices, and sharp mustard oil. This is the impossible barbecue of the valley. This is not a dish for the faint of heart. It is a dish that challenges you with its heat and its intense, smoky flavor, and then rewards you for your courage. It is, to put it mildly, addictive. And for festivals, the entire valley comes alive with taste. This is when the impossible celebration begins. You have yomari, steamed, fig-shaped rice dumplings with a soft, chewy outer layer. But inside, they hold a secret, a molten, gooey, impossible sweet filling of molasses and sesame called chaku. And then there is sel roti, the quintessential taste of celebration. It's a sweet, crispy, deep-fried rice donut, but formed in a large, thin ring. This isn't just a snack. It's the impossible taste of joy, a food that connects families and communities during the great festival of Dashain. This is the food of the city, of art, of history, and of celebration. But in the mountains, food is about one thing, and one thing only: survival. When you leave the valley and climb high into the Himalayas, the rules change. Rice won't grow. The air is too thin, the ground too cold, the growing season impossibly short. So, what do you eat? How do you survive? You eat dido. This is the impossible staple. It's a thick, porridge-like paste made from hardy buckwheat or millet flour, stirred relentlessly with hot water until it's a steaming, solid, glutinous mass. It's eaten with your hands, dipped in a little butter, a simple curry or a pickle. It's not about delicate flavor, it's not about art, it is about density. It sticks to your ribs. It is pure, unadulterated, impossible energy. It is the fuel that gives you the power to climb a 5,000-meter pass. It is the very definition of resilience. And what about vegetables? What do you eat in the brutal, snow-covered winter when nothing fresh can possibly grow? You eat gundruk. This is impossible preservation. This is a culinary miracle. It's fermented leafy greens, soured and then dried in the sun during the short summer. This impossible process preserves them for the long winter, where they are made into a tangy, smoky, pungent and deeply satisfying soup. It is, quite literally, a taste of summer in the dead of winter. It is the impossible taste of hope.